Hi everyone, this is a short screencast for Independent Colleges Dublin for CIMA E1 for November 2014. And in this particular screencast, we're going to look at Part B, BPR and process maps. And I'll draw your attention to question 4, May 2010, Part B indeed of that question, or if you're using the BPP text, question 19 on page 17, that's Part B of that also. So in this particular requirement, we'll see that there's specific reference to BPR and process maps, and indeed to W company, and it looks as if we're required to outline how those two areas can assist the company in becoming more efficient. So we take a quick look at the scenario itself. You'll see that we have a white goods manufacturer who's experienced some losses and poor trading in recent years. They have a new CEO, JH, who has some experience in these areas of BPR and process maps. As a result of a lack of impact in these particular areas, we see that the company is clearly inefficient. Cost of productions are much higher than competitors, and it looks as if the JH, the new CEO, feels that they need to do something. Last point is just really refers to ethical issues, which is part C, which I'll be uploading a video on too. Okay, so that's the basic idea, and you'll see when we look at the answer here that essentially what they do in requirement B is just really give us a definition of each of those areas and then just outline as per the requirement exactly what they would do. And there's some element of overlap between each of the answers here. So this idea of process design, you'll see that they make reference to the scenario in the sense that it's clear that the processes that they have in place at the moment are inefficient, their costs are higher, and they need some sort of radical overhaul, and that was sort of hinted at in the scenario. Okay. In terms of changing processes and analyzing and reintroducing new processes, what they talk about here is that the first thing that they'll need to do is just establish exactly what their mission and goals and indeed their customer needs are. They need to establish where they are first by doing a full analysis before they can move forward to redesign or indeed eliminate any other processes that are already in place. So really what they need to do is to sort of understand exactly the business function, the business activities, and what process design can do is to provide them with a new set of processes or perhaps improvements to existing processes. So that's essentially what process design is. So let's look clearly then at process maps and indeed PPR in a moment. And process maps is very much a sort of a fancy term for really flow charting. So really flow charting the business. And in essence, what you'll get is some sort of visual, sort of graphical representation of all of the processes within a business in terms of flows. So all of the flows of products or perhaps even information need to be mapped out in a flow chart. And essentially what that will enable them to do, or the advantage that gives individuals and indeed the company in an overall sense, is that it enables employees to understand and clearly see how their job fits in. Linked to that is obviously an overview of the responsibilities and indeed the key stages in the supply chain. It would certainly help to identify inefficiencies. Obviously, they've got cost issues, so there must be some inefficiencies vis-a-vis their competitors, and those will probably be in the form of waste of some kind. Okay. Moving on from that, it can certainly assist in planning for change. Certainly, the introduction of flow charting, or this kind of process flow charts, is certainly a big change, and this can assist the company with any other changes that may be taking place. So really, in summary then, process charts are essentially just really mapping or flow charting every process within the organization, and what that's going to do is give the organization, the entity, a clear outline of every single process so that they can improve them or perhaps eliminate them. Over and above that, if you imagine that a process is going to involve employees, then essentially what that flow chart is going to do, that process map, is really outline roles and responsibilities for individuals. So just make their their jobs a lot clearer, and that must lead to some sort of a increase in efficiency and indeed effectiveness. Now, linked into that is obviously BPR, and I think you would probably be aware that sort of process maps would be used within BPR, and again, BPR is very much a sort of a complex piece of terminology that revolves around doing very much what process maps do. So really totally re-engineering the business, okay? Really rethinking and redesigning the business in all aspects. So it's very much a radical sort of overhaul of the business. So in terms of sort of themes or really, upsides, a couple of things to bear in mind. Really what this reorientation does, or this BPR does, is it focuses on jobs and tasks and indeed constraints and resources. And the essence of it is that we want to be more efficient in carrying out our jobs and indeed our tasks. It certainly encourages the creative use of IT. As you would imagine, that's an important aspect of any sort of radical change within the operation of the business, particularly ones that are linked to information. And these areas here, rule breaking and ambition, basically just sort of good buzzwords that you could throw into an answer. Really what we're trying to do is think outside the box and think in newer and indeed more effective ways, and a readiness to do so. Ambition in the sense of building in targets for improvements that perhaps weren't contemplated previously. So in terms of a summary on BPR, obviously there's a link between maps and indeed PPR, but we're really talking about a radical sort of overhaul of the business. Certainly does require careful consideration, and it may well be costly. Okay. So that's a very, very brief and quick summary of process maps and BPR, maybe how they could help an organization or an entity, and how they will help W Company in this case. Certainly it's a popular topic for examiners, so I'd certainly have a basic grip and understanding on the key elements of it. Okay, many thanks. Bye-bye.